I was only 23 when I was given the captaincy. It was in Keith Wood's absence. He was out for a year, and I'd never captained any team in my life. I had no idea how to captain a team. I was kind of looking at all these guys. Still, was I still living at home? And all I saw was these guys that had families and mortgages, and I just thought, how am I meant to actually speak to them and impart knowledge on them? So that first real test of captaincy came in the Grand Slam game in 2003. Martin Johnson led his team out onto the Lansdowne Road and lined up on the wrong side, on our side, for the anthem. And we came running out, went into a huddle, and as we were running over to line up for the anthems ourselves, one of the boys, Kevin Maggs, pointed out that they were on our side, and I kind of thought to myself, can we not just go the other side? Like, they're there, let's go the other side. It was no biggie to me. He was like, they're disrespecting us. So like in kind of 5 seconds, I have to decide what to do. So you've got three options. You can stand in front of them and potentially get a dig in the back of the head. I could stand behind them and take to the point that I'm standing behind Martin Johnson. I'm not going to be spotted behind him. So we could do that, or we could stand down to the left of them, way down beyond the red carpet, where our president will have to get her shoes dirty. So I opted for that option. But it was one of those moments where I thought I just want it to be easier, but you got to stand up on and kind of represent your team and make a decision very quickly.
Benny, you're smiling away at that story. Obviously a happy memory for you.
Look, it wasn't a planned thing. We had no idea that there was a set side that Ireland traditionally stood on. Clive had been saying to us, actually, he said in the lead up to that game, if you lose this game, you will not win the World Cup because you've been here before, lost Grand Slam games. If you lose this one, you're not going to do it in a World Cup final, so forget about it. Quite a big thing for a head coach to say in the year of a World Cup. But the other thing that he'd said was, Irish people, greatest people, most friendly people, but they will try and mess you about all week when we're in Ireland. When you get to game day, it'll all be done in the nicest way, but constantly there'll be little things just to put you off your game. So whatever you do not get put off by it. So that was in our mind. That's all Clive had been saying all week. And then Brian obviously tried the old captain's trick, which I know that Sam's tried as well, of keeping a team waiting out in the atmosphere. So, you let them go out, the away team go out, they stand there waiting, and the ref's knocking on the home team dressing room, they don't come out, and they let you savour up the atmosphere. So by the time Ireland came out, we'd been told to line up pretty much for the anthems anyway. There was no reference of the Irish team, so we just went and stood somewhere. And then some bloke goes, "Oh, you're on the wrong side." That was like a red rag to a bull to Jono, who was thinking, right, they're going to try and mess us about. We had no idea the fallout of it. But actually, if you talk about captaincy, the best thing about Jono was in the moment. Jono's captaincy was nothing about planning or saying the right thing, writing a speech the night before of what he was going to say. That wasn't Jono. It was about making right decisions at the right time. And that decision was, don't take a backward step. Even if it had nothing to do with the Irish team, with what was ringing in his players' ears, if Jono had then gone, "Oh, okay, lads, we're in the wrong place, come on," we would have all looked at him and subconsciously said, "We were told they're going to mess us around, and now you've let them mess us around, Jono."
I completely agree with what Ben's saying and what Martin did. When you're away from home, that's when you need to show most authority. It's easy to be motivated and get your team up when you're playing in front of your home crowd, in front of 75, 80, 90,000 people. But I remember a couple of big games away, and I used to remember saying to the players, there's going to be a moment in this game. And it's not like the 70s, 80s where you all used to fly in and fight, but there's going to be moments in this game where we're all going to need to back each other up. That's probably an example from an English point of view. If Martin Johnson, it probably was completely innocent that he was on the wrong side, but if he did concede his ground there, that's a massive psychological loss. So that's the whole part of home and away advantage and the mind games that you play, but they're big moments in games.
Was it your call to keep yourselves in the dressing room when England, say, were in Cardiff?
Oh, I remember that like it was yesterday. So we have a whiteboard where we go into our change room, and to the minute, our preparation is written down. So team arrives, an hour and 20 minutes before kickoff. To the minute, it tells us what we're doing, when we're going out, when we're coming back in, how long we've got in the change room, when you go out for the anthems, how long from the anthems till kickoff. So I know exactly what to say when, how to prepare. So we came back in for the warm up, and I remember our conditioner, who's in charge of the timing, said, "Right, 9 minutes and we're back out." So I got 9 minutes. So guys then are getting ready, changing their tops for their normal match jerseys. And then I call the boys in on about 3 minutes. It takes a minute and a half to get everyone together because guys are in the toilet, they're getting final bits of strapping done, everyone's embracing each other before kickoff. And then you get together about 90 seconds before. A couple of other senior leaders will speak, and then I'll probably round it off with just 30 seconds to finish. So I know to a T how our speaking goes, our timings go. Then suddenly we had a 2 minute call. I knew we had 2 minutes left. They said, "Sam, you got to come out now. They're waiting." I was like, "Well, no, I've got 2 minutes." So I hadn't even, the boys were just getting together. I hadn't even spoken. And that's a big part of getting everyone ready. We have our, defensive leads will talk, who would have been like Jamie Roberts. Dan Bigger will talk about some key tactics of the first 5 minutes. Then I'll talk. I'm not just going to chuck that down the toilet. And just because somebody's telling me to come out early, I've been told my timings and I'm going to stick to them exactly. Otherwise, it's going to disrupt our team's preparation. So I remember that. And I said, "I'm not coming out until we're coming out." And, I'm at home. I'm not being told what to do. So that's what happened.
Brian, was there a moment in your career as captaincy where you went, "Yeah, I got this. I now know how to do this job"? Was there a clear, kind of concise moment there?
Absolutely not. I think you're always a work in progress, and when you feel a little bit more comfortable with it, something, a curveball is thrown at you, something new that you've not dealt with before, and you definitely develop as a captaincy the different aspects that are expected of you. And it's not just people see on a Saturday afternoon and see you talking in a huddle, and that's not captaincy. That might be a message or two, but captaincy is about all the small stuff that goes on during the week, all the expectation, the representation of the team. You're front and center in front of the media. Captaincy is also how you actually captaincy is also how you deal with things when the camera's not rolling. That's the real captaincy.
Benny, Jono always just seemed like an obvious captain. And I guess because he's lifting a World Cup trophy, it kind of cements that view. But what were his qualities that made him so good?
I've mentioned before knowing what to say when, so not planning it, but just reacting to the mood of the room, the mood of the environment, where you were in the game. Best example I give of that is whenever we ran out for a big game, you'd get to the sort of tunnel just before you go out into the stadium, and he'd usually turn around and not say anything Churchillian, but just say something that absolutely captured the mood at the right time. And for World Cup final, he turned around, said nothing, and just ran off. And we all got the fact that he said afterwards, I turned around, looked at you all, and went, what am I going to say that's going to make any difference to you now? If I said anything, it would just be for my own benefit, not for your benefit. The other great thing about Jono was consistency of performance. And you look at the other two guys in this conversation, that's the big thing, knowing that they'll never have dips in form. They might feel that they had dips in form in their career. We all know they didn't really. It's 1 or 2%. Never being affected and always being a leader indeed. And certainly Rory said that as well.
So Sam, so much of captaincy is about dealing with the referee, and you provided us with one of those iconic captain referee moments on that Lions tour against the All Blacks. Talk us through that.
I always say there's two things. Look at the Sonny Bill incident in the second test. So he obviously put his shoulder into Anthony Watson. And I remember Johnny Sexton and Owen Farrell and a load of boys flew up to me and said, "Get into the referee, he's got to go off." I remember saying, "Leave him alone. Leave him alone," because it's on about a 1,000, 2,000 inch screen behind us here that his shoulders hit his head. I don't need to waste a chip on this one. Just trust him, leave him make the right decision, because I would joke around with the referee for a game and say, I'll speak to you 3 times a half, max, I promise. I won't bother you any more than that. So when I did go up to the referee, hopefully he knew it was going to carry a bit more weight with it. So I didn't want to be one of those guys who just speaks for speaking's sake. You need to try and make it conversational rather than just make statements of fact. You need to ask a question so you're engaged with them. Don't tell them what they're doing wrong all the time, because if you did that, they're not going to respond. If you're in any line of work and you're just telling someone what they're doing wrong all the time, they're going to shut you off. On that instance with Sonny Bill, I didn't bother going up to him. It's a shoulder to the head. We all knew what the rules were. He had to go off. Didn't waste a chip on that one, so we just left him. thank goodness he did give him a red card. I was praying it was at least a yellow, but he gave us the red card. But then say the third test, but on that instance, Ken Owinskid did the accidental knock on. And I remember that my first, I was actually reloading to get some depth because I was on the other side of the pitch. So if they kicked the opposite direction, I just turn and reload to the width. So I actually didn't see what was going on. I just knew it was a massive moment. And so I just said to Rowan Pratt, you got to check. You just have to check. So, and then I just saw him do this with his ear. So I knew he was going to the fourth official. And at that point, then I knew it was in the hands of the rugby gods then, of the TMOs. But at least I got him to have a look. And so the two messages from that I give youngsters is, number one, less is more with captaincy regarding communication. And the second one is, which is what my mum taught me, is manners don't cost a penny. Be polite, be courteous, and be human, and you're much more likely to get something back from referees.